Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Hello, EBC. Welcome to this episode of ChatEBC, where we get to know the members of the European Bridge chapter a little bit better to start having more conversations when we're on our retreats. Today, I'm joined by a German living in Bodrum, and I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about his journey, and also looking forward to seeing him in a couple of weeks' time at our retreat in Bodrum and being back in that beautiful part of the world that I haven't been in many years. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. David, how are you?
Hey, doing awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure. So, David, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story about where you grew up, where you are now, and how you got to those 2 points.
All right. So I've been through a lot of fun things. So how long do you want this? An hour and a half? No, just kidding. I'll do my
Hour and a
best to
half.
cut it
Yeah,
short.
you're a busy guy, so let's keep it a bit shorter than that.
All right. So I'm originally from Germany, and I've been always a trouble student. I went to 14 different schools. I got kicked out everywhere, and at some point, I did not know what to do with my life. I was pretty lost. And a friend of mine said, like, hey man, how about we start a business together? And I was like, yeah, sure. I have nothing else going on. And then I found entrepreneurship, and this was like, it's like really my thing because nobody told me what I have to do. My parents also raised me without authority, which made it really hard to just like, the whole school thing and like having jobs. So I never had a job. And I started out with an IT service company where we maintained in-house servers. This kind of dates me. Like back then when companies still had their servers in their basement and not somewhere in a data
When the
center.
clouds were in the cupboard.
Correct. And so I did this, and then I started an e-commerce business selling Arabic water pipes because one of my customers was the largest importer and manufacturer of Egyptian water pipes. And he was very pushy and annoying to ask me to start a business with him, even though I did not really want to, but he was so persistent. So I did this, but then this really took off. And so I did this for a few years, and then I got really tired of this. It was like no real challenge anymore. And I visited a friend in the US, and I saw the startup ecosystem in on the West Coast, and I was like, holy cow! I felt like I'm on an island in Germany because, especially where I lived, there was no startup ecosystem, and so I really wanted to go to the US. Sold my e-commerce business, which gave me the money to get my investor visa to move to the United States, and there I started, co-founded MaxCDN, a content delivery network, which we ran for 7-8 years. We moved over in 2009, and we sold it in 2015. And then actually, it was like another thing that was like really an eye-opener. My wife went through breast cancer, and this was a big wake-up moment for me to think about, like, what do I really want out of life? And before I was just like chasing the Benjamins, making money. But this, I guess, funeral exercise moment made me realize I want to do something with more impact. This also led me to, talk to my business partners to sell the business and to figure something else out. And long story, I know. Sorry. And
No,
so,
that's okay. It's really interesting.
and then sold the business, and my mother also passed away, which was really tough on my wife because she was like best friends with her. And my mother was an amazing person aside from this. And so she wanted to move back to Germany to be closer to family. And I could not go back to German weather conditions after being in LA for 8 years. I think you can relate being in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so
I
we,
mean, look at the sun is shining. It's nice and warm. We're in the 3rd of November, so the stereotypes are not true, but they are. But
miracles
sorry, go
happen,
on.
right?
Yeah.
So yes, we looked into being somewhat close to Germany, but warm. I initially want to move to somewhere in Asia. And so I want to go to Spain, being warm and close to Germany. And my Spanish is much better than my Turkish, but my wife has Turkish parents. And it was my choice to go to Los Angeles, so it was her turn to pick. And so we ended up in Bodrum. I'm also very, very happy here. We have like a little farm here with 10 dogs and cows. And actually, we sold the cows because one of the cows almost
And a
killed my
rooster I
wife.
can hear in the
And a
background.
rooster, yeah, and donkeys and horses. So when you're in coming to Bodrum for the EBC, please visit me. And
Hmm.
so But yeah, going back to 2016 when we moved here, I was a little lost, didn't know what to do with myself. After selling the businesses, I was like, kind of like your identity is really tied to the business. And I also was like looking for what can I do to have more impact. And then I started managing happiness. And the idea is you run your life the same way you run a successful business. This was something my wife and I started many years ago, and this was like very impactful for us to define vision, mission, values, and goals and habits in the most important areas of your life, like you yourself, mind, body, spirit, you as the family person, and you as the professional. Managing happiness was fun and all, but it was too much of family therapy. And I'm a business guy, I'm not a family therapist, so it didn't really sit that well for me. With me, and so I kind of shelved it. And I read during this time, I read a book called Conscious Capitalism, which is by John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. And the idea is that a standard or a traditional business is there to increase shareholders' value, and a conscious business does good by all stakeholders, not just the shareholders. And if you have a business like this, his thesis is like A, these businesses make more money than the traditional ones, and B, you have the best vehicle to have a positive impact in the world. And I was like, holy cow, that's awesome. I can go back to muscle memory to do what I'm decently good at and run businesses and have a positive impact. And I did this. I started a outsourcing business, LTV Plus, where we provide live chat agents, customer support reps, because I want to give as many people as possible a good job and a good work environment.
Hmm.
So I've been doing this for a few years, and then I bought Task Drive. We do lead research and sales development reps, and it's like basically now we're turning it into VAs on steroids. And then I end up buying and starting a bunch of different businesses. Now I have a portfolio of businesses with 500 employees or so. And I went back to managing happiness, and the idea was that if you run your life the same way you run the business, being on your personal A game, if I teach this methodology to my leadership teams, then they will be, happier, and they'll just, also be more productive at work. And this has been working really well. And then friends of mine said like, hey, can you do this? Can I join, or can my team join? And so this is how managing happiness came back, and was just not for families, but now it's like for business leaders or professionals, basically.
Hmm.
Um,
And I'm on the current cohort,
you see,
so I'm
you're in
enjoying
the
that
current.
process as well.
Yes, yes, yes. You're going through the pain of figuring out what actually you were really good, because you already really figured out what you want out of life, and you
Well,
call that as
to a certain
embodies.
extent, yes. But I've found the process, and I think just as a complete aside, for this conversation, you got me working on my vision board, and I put it into that to the group, and it was really help. The conversations that we have on our calls and the stuff that you prepared really helps you to put it in a lot of perspective. So it's been really useful for me. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And your vision board looks phenomenal. Like, it made everybody to step up their game in terms of the vision boards. Um, so yeah, and my businesses we're doing fairly well with like 500 team members or so. Actually, another thing I forgot, in the process of running Managing Happiness, I need first I had a DIY course where people just like do the course by themselves, and I only had a 7% completion rate of the course, and this was really bugging me, because I was like doing this more for impact than for money. Otherwise I could say like, okay, these people
Hmm.
paid me, like if they do it or not, I don't care, but I want people to actually do it. And so I started to think about like, how can I actually get this information into people's heads, and I started cohort-based coaching. The idea is like kind of bringing 8 people together and one guide, and then kind of walking them through this process. And this worked really well. I have a 93% completion rate to date,
Hmm.
from 7 to 93, complete flip. But I couldn't find a software that was making this easy for me, because I do like a lot of different things, and I could not have lots of overhead in terms of managing this. And I also
Hmm.
want to implement positive peer pressure. So we start with a group habit tracker, so I can see if you do your habits or not, and and your accountability buddies can do this as well.
Hmm.
Uh, and this was the start, and then we added more and more and more to it. And at some point, it turned out to be actually a really good software for coaches. And then we thought, actually, let's spin this out and turn this into a software for coaches. And I met Todd Herman, who wrote The Alter Ego Effect, at some entrepreneur dinner. And I built a software, and I thought like, okay, he's the most well-known coach. He worked like with lots of Olympians and big name athletes and big name celebrities. Actually, he worked with Kobe on coming up with the Black Mamba alter ego. Fun side effect.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, I'm not a coach by trade, but I built this coaching software. Let's reach out to the best, most well-known coach that I know and show him and get his input. So I record a Loom video saying like, "Hey Todd, we built this coaching software. This is what it does. What do you think about this?" And he responded with like, "This solves 80% of the problems in my business. Can I please invest and be a business partner?" I was like, "Holy shit, this was not what I expected." But it was good validation. And then we started doing UpCoach, and I have the constant struggle with like doing too many things and not really working on my actual core mission and vision, since I like spend a lot of time like thinking about what is my mission and vision. And like I narrowed it down to really focus on the number one thing, as which you can see here, and everybody in EBC probably like
Hmm.
saw one of these stickers, the love not fear stickers.
I mean, if anybody's been in EBC for longer than one retreat and they haven't seen this, they're talking to the wrong people.
Yeah, or they're
So
blind.
tell us a little bit about this.
So I used to be very introverted. I'm a recovering introvert, and this was really holding me back in life and in business. I was uncomfortable doing running a meeting with my own team, or like being on a podcast or on stage or whatever. I would have never done in a million years. And a friend of mine was really crushing it at he was keynote speaking at conferences and networking like a boss. And I saw how much fun he had and how good this was for his business. It's like, damn, I want this too. But how do you do this being like an introverted nerd? And so I did Toastmasters, public speaking classes twice a week, and I went to 2 networking events per week in LA. And I talked to everybody and their mother there, even though it was really painful, but I did it. And the exposure therapy, I guess, helped. But the real transformation happened when my yoga teacher said that every decision in life, you either make out of love or out of fear. So your 2 basic emotions for do everything that you're doing. And this was like a massive aha moment for me. And I use this framework for everything that I'm doing. For example, being on this podcast, sharing, thinking like before I would have thought like, oh, do they think what I'm saying is stupid? Do they think I have a weird German accent? Do they think I look weird? And then I can't perform because I'm full of fear. But if I think like, hey, what I'm sharing, it can help people in their life and their business, then public speaking or podcast becomes very easy. Or selling, I used to hate sales with a passion. I always sold
Hmm.
out of fear because hey, we're a startup, we have to sell or we die. But once I understood this love and fear concept, now I sell out of love. Like I sell, if the product is a fit for people, I can even be a pushy sales guy. It's like, hey, Stephen, buy this. It's going to really help you so much. And you will feel where I'm coming from because I'm doing this to improve your life, not
Hmm.
just to make my pockets fat. And so this was like so impactful for me. This like my main mission to really spread this message to people because it was so impactful for me. And I think it's one of the universal truths that people should be aware of because their life will get infinitely better if they
I
internalize this.
remember, and I think I shared it with you before. An old friend of mine, a former mentor of mine, talked about this idea of all of us are either moving away from the fire or moving towards the sun. So we're either just doing what we can to get away from the fire,
Mm.
and that's fear, and that our decisions are made not on the best interest of where we're going, but actually just to move us away from that. And then when you get to a certain point from the fire, that's when you can start to look and see, spread your wings, and that's when you can move. So I always like that visual analogy. It's not dissimilar to yours. I mean, yours is more about the motivation of it and understanding of it. But I really like the way that those things go together, because absolutely we can either come from a place of fear, we can come from a place of love. It's a big continuum that we all sit on all the time, and the further we get towards the love side of things, I think the more impact that we're able to make, because it's not just about um, what am I getting out of it. It's
Yes,
what
it
can I
is.
give to people,
Be of
what can I
service.
put into the universe, what can I
Money
do.
is a side effect of providing value. Like if you provide
Yeah.
as much value as possible to as many people as
um,
possible, you're the richest dude around. Also, another thing
so
I've
I
been
need to provide more value so as I get more money at the moment, but I mean that's a that's a different I'm not providing enough value to people at the moment. So
another thing with love not fear is I've also kind of like the for the EO gang to get to know me better. Um, I had a very broad experience with different religions. So my father brought, with a friend, they brought Shambhala to Europe, which is like a Buddhist religion, and I lived in this ashram for the first 6 years of my life with my family. So I've been around that. And my mother was Roman Catholic, and yes, she was active in church, and I was an altar boy for a few years, and also lead altar boy at some point. Then with 15, I started smoking weed like a crazy person. Didn't really care about anything. And then at some point, I met my wife, and I converted to Islam, and I lived Islam straight for 7 years, like the whole shebang, like praying 5 times a day, etc., etc. And then we moved to LA, and I became more like hippie, spiritual meditation, yoga, and stuff like this. And I think all these religions, if you really boil it down to the core, it's God is love, devil is fear, like, and so I think there's like
Hmm.
some big truth to it. And one of our Greek friends in ABC told me that in Greek language, the devil is the separator, that separates us, fear, and love is
Hmm.
combining. So um, yeah. Um,
I didn't know that bit. That's really cool. That's a really interesting insight into the language and how it encapsulates different emotions.
Yeah, I get so much value from Greek language and our EBC Greece friends.
Hmm.
Another one that they told me, I always had a
Yeah,
problem
I
with being
mean, there's
competitive.
a lot of them, huh?
Yes, there's a
It's
lot of them.
growing. We got
Yes,
another Greek
yes.
member even today. So the Irish are going to have to step up their game because we're getting outnumbered again. So.
Another thing, I used to have a problem with being competitive. Because like being competitive means like, oh, I have to crush the opponent. I don't want to crush anybody. I'm a friendly guy, but I
Hmm.
also don't want to lose. So it's always like, like how do I play this? Um, but Leonidas told me that in Greek language, again, it's to be competitive means to get better together. So like iron
Hmm.
sharpens irons. We push each other, and so it's like a really beautiful thing. It was very very helpful for me.
There is, I mean, there's a lot of conversations that you and I can have, I think, and probably not on this podcast, but definitely in person, about how modern society and this whole thing of not conscious capitalism, but traditional capitalism is all about the one winner as opposed to
Mm,
in the past, tribes had leaders, and the leaders were supposed to look after the tribes. I mean, Simon Sinek puts it: we're not in charge of people. People are in our charge. So we're supposed to be
mm.
looking after our teams, not
Stewardship, yeah.
getting ourselves across the line and at the expense of everybody and all of these things. So I'm a big believer in that. So it's probably something that you and I will no doubt have
Nerd
a
out
long
on, yes.
discussion over philosophically over dinner. So.
So, on that note, like, so my main focus right now is like my businesses are running, and I have amazing business partners or GMs that are taking care of the service business that we have, shortlist, backlink building, task drive, lead research. That doesn't matter, but my main focus is managing happiness, because like when you actually go through this process and you figure out what you really want and you get your habits in line, then it's going to be much easier for you to make decisions out of love, not fear, because you're on your A game, you're good, right? Also, there's lots of some mindset hacks are in there. And the other thing I'm focusing on is building with love, not fear, building a business operating system. We run on EOS. I'm a
Hmm.
big organization development nerd. And I think the thing that's missing is, like, for example, doing things like building trust in organizations, like doing the lifeline, for example. Kind of helping people
Hmm.
to kind of really build trust, or teaching conscious communication. How do you communicate properly? Or having a mission and vision that is inspiring to people, so people actually kind of are excited about like the company. So kind of helping entrepreneurs to build companies that people love working for. That's like the idea that we're currently
Hmm.
working on.
Cool. So then, with all of these things that are happening, all of these the different companies you have and the different projects that you have that are speaking very much to your own why, your core purpose, your what you're trying to build. Um, what's on your mind at the moment? Now, I'm not talking about the 5%. I'm not talking about the inform kind of stuff because I remember this is a public podcast. But what are the things which are either interesting you or distracting you a little bit, or things that you just want to try and figure out or put more rationale behind?
I mean, like the something I've always been struggling with, like having too many things going on, and kind of like being able to kind of really focus on the one thing. Actually, it's another interesting insight that I had. I There's this book called Immunity to Change, and I was at a mastermind where the author was there, and I started managing happiness, and I really like my personal mission is to be a change agent who's transforming the lives of individuals and organizations to help them to reach their full potential. This is what makes me the happiest, and I really think this is the reason why I'm here. And managing happiness is like really in line with this. And but I restarted managing happiness multiple times, and I always like distracted myself with other stuff. For example, oh no, I have to build up
Hmm.
coach the coaching tool, or like kind of always finding like a different reason not to really focus on my core thing. And in this immunity to change exercise, the question that he says, like, okay, is there something where you really want to hit the pedal, like hit the gas, but subconsciously you're pumping the brakes? And the realization that I had was that I'm pumping the brakes on managing happiness because and I have no problem starting a business and growing it and going hard on it. But with managing happiness, I felt like because it's so close to my core purpose that if I fail at this, then I kind of fail at
Hmm.
life type of thing. So it's like a big realization. I'm still struggling with this part. To be I'm like not my normal self how I am in business usually. I'm like a little timid with this. So this is like something that's always going on in my mind.
Hmm. And I'm sure with the many people in EBC who have multiple businesses who are getting distracted by multiple things, that there's definitely some conversation starters in that for people who are watching this video at the next event. Um, David, how long have you been in EO? Were you in EO before EBC
No,
or?
I always want to join EO when I lived in LA, but it was like too far away from where I lived. And LA traffic
Mhm.
is horrible. Then I moved here to Bodrum, and I want to join EO, but I had to fly to Istanbul every time for every meeting. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't want to do that. And then I heard about EBC. I was like, holy cow, this sounds perfect for me. And so
Okay.
I'm a travel nerd, so this is like really, yeah, the perfect match.
Well, I mean, the next quarter, you're not going to get to
Travel
travel
far,
all
yeah,
that much.
yeah.
We're all
It's a
coming to
50,
see
50
you.
minute drive. Yeah.
We're all. So what do you think is special about EBC? So you said like you heard about EBC, it sounded perfect to you. What is it like? You're familiar. You've never been in a
Yeah.
regular chapter, like a local geographic chapter, but you wanted to join that. But what was special about EBC for you?
I mean, I'm also part of a bunch of other self-organized masterminds, or like I'm part of these types of things. And also, the ones that we self-organized is also similar format of like how the meetings work. We just meet like once or twice a year. But what I really love about EBC is that it's always a different group of people when you do forum. Kind of you go deep with new people. And I love networking. As I said, I went to 14 different schools, and I moved a bunch of times. I love connecting with people, and I'm not shy of like going deep and opening up. So I think this is like really one thing where you always meet cool new driven people, and you get to know them on a deep level. I think this is like the thing that is the most amazing thing for me. And also like the openness of EBC. When people really open up and just like share things that you would not usually share. And I said I have no problem being open, but I've never experienced that extreme from other people, and I really appreciate this.
I actually remember my very first EBC retreat was in Albania, and I do remember bringing two deep dive topics. One, something that was really bothering me, or that I really wanted to talk about, and the other was a little shallower, kind of. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to get to know these people quick enough. And I said it at the time. It's like I was amazed how comfortable I was actually going
Mm.
through the much deeper part of it with this group of people that I just met. So it was really incredible. So, do you have a favorite EBC moment so far? Do you have anything that sticks out as going, oh, that was really cool or that was really moving?
I have a general problem with these type of things because a lot of people in EBC know I have a condition called
Yeah.
aphantasia, and so which means I cannot recreate sounds, tastes, smells, or emotions in my mind. So I don't have pictures in my head. And aphantasia also goes hand in hand with SDAM, severely deficient autobiographical memory. So yeah, it's I have a hard time remembering like remembering stuff. Like it's just like kind of like spreadsheet esque
Yeah.
bullet points type of thing. So
But I mean, that also means that you're living in the moment and you're looking to the future, I suppose. So,
I'm living in the moment. I'm also not like Eckhart Tolle esque. I also don't worry. So
hmm
it's a has very
wow.
nice benefits. The aphantasia thing.
Okay, so then the next part of this podcast is I ask you 5 random questions that are from a random generator, a
Okay, let's
Excel
go.
thing that I came up with. Quick fire, just really simple, kind of again
Let's go.
icebreaker, get to know you, and then I have a question which was asked by the last guest,
Hmm.
not knowing who the question was for. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you that question, and then when we're finished recording, I'll ask you to give me a question for the next guest. Again, not knowing who that person is going to be.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So first question from the random question generator: what's something you're proud of but never have an excuse to talk about?
I can't really answer this because also I guess like maybe it's a. I'm not sure if I really carry the emotion of proud that much. So
Okay.
it's
To be
so
honest, just when I was looking at this earlier on, I was going, I wonder how I would answer that. And I think I'm such an open book that I have very little to be proud of. So I talk about it all the time. So that's a tough one. Okay. Then, well, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
that
Is
have
that going to
great
be
hair. I
tough
don't
for you
know.
as well? That you have great hair?
No, just like saying so like somebody a few days ago said he has hair envy because of my hair. So I guess that's
Okay. Very good. Third question: what's a trend that you just can't get behind? What's something that's happening in the world at the moment, like a trend, like a marketing trend or a ideology
even
trend
though
that you
I
just
may
think
get
It's
cancelled,
not
but
for me"?
wokeness,
Wokeness.
it's can't get
Yeah.
behind that.
Okay. Well, you can't get cancelled on this show. So, um, if you could go back in time, what decade would you choose to live in?
I'm actually pretty happy in the decade that I am in. So I would not want to change that. I like technology.
Okay.
Maybe even go on like a little further ahead and see where how the world works when nobody works because everything's done by AI.
Well, yeah, that is going to be interesting. Now you mentioned a couple of books. What's your favorite book and why? Is the last question on the random question generator.
So my favorite book is probably Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and I have like the workbook here right now, and I've read through this like
Okay.
countless times. So it also has a lot to do with love, not fear. In this book, he interviews the devil,
Uh huh.
asking the devil, "What does the devil do to make us not reach our goals?" And fear is one of the biggest tools of the devil. And he wrote this book. The book was published 40 years after his death because he didn't dare to publish it.
Okay.
So yeah, this definitely is my favorite book. Had the biggest impact in my life.
Well, he definitely could have got cancelled at that point in
Yes,
his
very
life.
true.
So there is my favorite Irish toast or my favorite Irish blessing is may the road always rise to meet you. So may your way always be easy. May the sun always be at your back,
Mm-hmm.
and may you be in heaven a half an hour before the devil knows you're dead.
Ah, that's awesome. That's very
So.
good.
Okay, so then the question that I was asked to ask you is from Costas from EBC. I always stumble on his surname. The
Last
Greeks,
name.
I wish they'd have normal surnames. If you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 items would you want with you?
I would like to have my computer with internet. I think that's like a really
Okay.
important one. We're actually on my honeymoon. We were like in French Polynesia, and there was no internet, and I like lost it. So definitely my computer. Um, as sad as it sounds, like desert island. I guess other survival items. Depending on what the
Hmm.
scenario is there.
Yeah.
Like something that gives me fire and water. I guess. Like yeah,
Hmm.
probably.
Okay. Cool. So,
Now the
David, thank you so
question
much.
for the next
No, no,
person.
I can't. No, I'm gonna ask you once we stop recording because if it comes out, like
Okay,
if the
okay. I
videos
got
come
you. I
out
got you.
beforehand, so I'll ask you offline. So,
All right.
um, David, thank you so much for taking the time. Really looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time in Bodrum in your home,
Likewise.
and for everybody else, they'll get to see you in Bodrum and get to see you at all of the future EBC events. So, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. See you in Bodrum.